Hey there, fellas. Now, you might recall that the last experiment we did with this car was when we removed the strut and replaced the spring with bushings, bump stops, silicon spring replacements, and then we went through the comments under that video. And I don't even know who's trolling whom here. Hey, if you want us to replace regular springs with valve springs, I mean... honestly, some of us thought that wouldn't be possible, but look here. While this is off, we actually took a few valve springs and sort of slid them onto the shaft. And the end result is kind of fun. Now let me try and... how many we got? 2, 3, 4, 5? Compress these 5 valve springs and check it out. I am not having a whole lot of trouble doing that, using the weight of my body. But then we can add more. So let's do it. Let's fit some valve springs to this shock absorber and see how it works. Let's do this. We replace normal springs with valve springs. Translation and voiceover by BMI Russian. So it was easy to compress one stack of springs, and here's what we've done. Now we are running both types of valve springs, of the smaller and larger variety. That's because we want them to also do something when there's a bit of motion. What can I say? Already, we have some positive results. So the strut with 2 stacks of springs is in place. And now we're about to see how they behave under load. Well, under static load anyway. While the car is on the hoist. There they are compressing. But not all the way. No, down. Well, something does seem to be coming out of this. We do have a bit of articulation, so let's go for a drive and see how that goes. Interesting. Now, honestly, it is way more... it's way more supple than when we were running those bump stops, bushings, the silicone. Even when you've got 2 stacks of springs, the rear end, the springs are doing something. And they ain't even doing too bad. Time to head back. Made it through. Now, there was a bit of rubbing back there. I mean, the rebar guides we're running are rubbing against the mounts that we drilled holes through. This is just fantastic. They work. I mean, honestly, I expected them not to. But they're actually doing well. Even at pretty decent speeds. Over the edges of those slabs, they're not bottoming out. I'm not taking any punishment. The seat of the pants feel is perfectly fine. They actually work. Let's add 2 more stacks then. Potentially we have 6. Onto the lift, 2 more stacks, and go for a test drive. Okay, here's what we're looking at. That is now 4 stacks each, with 6 pairs of valve springs in each of them. Bring her down. Now, I'm not gonna lie, they have compressed, but there's still plenty of travel left. More than enough. And the car seems to have a more or less even stance. It doesn't appear to be lowered. The ride height is very good. Can you rock it up and down for me? Nah? Well, isn't that something? Keep going. I'm starting to doubt whether we need to go to 6 stacks, but I mean, let's go out for a drive and see how these hold up. Let's go. Here we go. There's more knocking coming from the front than the rear suspension. It feels... What can I even say? The car is sprung, that you definitely feel. It may even be a tad too stiff. But they work. Such tiny springs, yet so effective. You can hear... You know what? These are actually doing a better job than the fronts. Excellent. This is terrific. Isn't that something? Honestly, none of us expected this sort of effect. That they'd work so well. Excellent. Now, I don't think we're gonna stop quite yet. There can be a total of 6 stacks of valve springs. So let's go ahead and fit all 6 stacks and see what happens. Let's do this. So check this out, guys. The moment of truth is upon us. We are running struts that, instead of 1 traditional spring, have 6 stacks of valve springs. Now let's bring the car down and see what happens. See how they do their thing. I am super curious. Bring her down? Or are they even gonna compress? We're about to find out. They have compressed. Not too much, though. I mean, there's still quite a bit of space in between the coils, so there will be plenty of articulation. Wow. Apparently this has gotten much stiffer. From the looks of it, anyway. I really want to go for a ride now. Okay. This is about what I expected. It has gotten real stiff, like... This is hardcore. Now, how bad is it gonna shake if I drive over a bumpy section at decent speed? Similar to what I was carrying before. Now, the rear suspension has gotten seriously stiff. I mean, it's firm. It does even soak up some of the imperfections, but... the damping still isn't great. This definitely isn't a comfortable ride. It's more akin to a sort of sporting suspension. I mean, some people like a firm coilover suspension, don't get me wrong. And that's pretty much what this is. The front suspension is now way softer. The difference is very significant. The rear, it is just too much for me. It is just way too intense. What those springs have done to the car. This actually comes as somewhat of a surprise. Okay guys, let's do a quick recap. It sounded like a hilarious suggestion, and so we went ahead and fitted those valve springs. 6 sets of big and small springs in a row, with one inside the other like they would be in the cylinder head. In the beginning, we thought we'd have to go with like 10 rows, that they wouldn't be able to hold up, with how you can literally squeeze them with your hand. Anyway, so we set up 6 rows, 2 stacks, and already they could carry the weight of the car. They were slightly bottoming out, but the car was still happily moving along. But then it wasn't really even bottoming out. The point is, they did their job, they articulated, and they weren't even fully compressed under the weight of the car. They worked. Now, 4 stacks was the sweet spot. It did feel a bit too stiff at times, or soft, but they weren't even close to bottoming out. At least to the point where you'd get a harsh impact on the body, and you yourself would get beat up. But there wasn't even a hint of any sort of serious impact. And then we fitted 6 stacks. That's when things got... It's actually a pretty good way to lower your car. Just use 5 stacks instead of 6, and you've got a stiff, low-slung car. But overall, that was more akin to a sort of sports suspension. At the end of the day, this worked, and amazingly well at that. Such tiny springs worked such wonders, who would have thought? And that's all I got for you. Watch us, subscribe, send in your suggestions, comment, give us a big thumbs up. All right, catch you later. Go ahead and try it out. It feels like a sports car, I tell ya.